And good afternoon again to every one of you. Thank you very much for joining right on time for this very interesting webinar on ISO 2001. And we have brought to you today a very esteemed guest, an expert who will take us through this session today. If you have any questions during the presentations, please you have to hold on until after the presentation, and then we'll have a session for the questions and the answers. So we'll start right now. So first, I would like to introduce the speaker, one of the Nigerian representatives in the International Organization for Standardization, that's ISO. He will be taking us through this very important webinar today on ISO 2001 Energy Management System. Over to you, Engineer Charles.
Thank you very much, Engineer Chimobina, for inviting me today to speak on this very important topic, which is on the ISO 2001 2018 Energy Management Systems. Just like Engineer Chimobi mentioned, my name is Charles Eguma. I'm a member of the ISO 2001 Energy Management System Standards. So we will quickly move to the next slide. The module objectives is very simple. We want to look at the energy management system in terms of the concept, what exactly energy management system is all about. And we're also going to introduce you to the standards, which is the ISO 5001 Energy Management System Standards. And then we'll have a little bit of discussion around these management system standards. And if time permits, we'll look at the management system standards and see how it compares to similar management system standards that you have available out there. In the next slide, we'll proceed by looking at what exactly energy management is all about. We've been hearing of standards, and there are quite a number of standards available out there for organizations, for industries, for people to use. But the focus of our discussion today is on the energy management system standards. And by definition, energy management is simply the efficient and effective use of energy within an organization. And the goal is for us to be able to minimize both operating costs and also ensure that we are complying with certain environmental requirements. So it's twofold. We are looking at reducing costs by reducing our energy consumption, and by extension, we want to be able to utilize energy in a way that is not going to affect the environment. So that's just the brief definition of what energy management is all about. As we proceed to the next slide, you're going to see how this concept continues to expand as we go further. But before we go right into the whole concept of energy management, it's important to mention that we actually utilize energy in different forms, either in our homes or in our commercial buildings or in the industries. And there are typical energy consumption means in all of these sectors, whether it's in the residential sector or the commercial sector or the industrial sector. Typically, people will use lighting systems, people will use HVACs. When you have need for heating spaces, people will also use HVAC systems. And then when you need cooling, you also have need for things like air conditioners, washing machines, and the rest of that. So all of these appliances we will commonly find in our residential apartments, in our office buildings, and in the industry. So this basic diagram is just here to illustrate different applications for energy in different sectors of the economy. Just like I mentioned earlier on, we've seen the definition of energy management, and according to the Clean Energy Ministerial Energy Management Working Group, the Clean Energy Ministerial Working Group is a think tank that is trying to help promote energy management, particularly in the industrial sector and in several countries, they've been trying to encourage industries to adopt best practices as it relates to energy management. And one of the things the Clean Energy Ministerial Energy Management Working Group does is to give out awards to companies across the world, people who are actually complying with effective energy management use within their industries. So energy management has the potential to save up to 30% of total energy use, both in industry and also in commercial buildings. Typically in commercial buildings, buildings account for about 40% of energy consumption. So you can see how significant that is. And that is why we cannot just close our eyes or fold our hands without doing something critical to see how we can reduce or minimize our energy consumption in these sectors. So as we proceed to the next slide, we are going to see how all of these things come to play. So in terms of the objective of energy management, the objective, we want to achieve and maintain optimum energy procurement and utilization, particularly for industries, for small businesses, and for even people who work in offices. Every organization on an annual basis puts out certain amount of money to be able to procure energy for their use. So we want to also minimize the energy cost and also to reduce waste as a result of the production process, particularly in industries. And in addition, we also minimize environmental effects. So when we use energy, because in most cases we are trying to burn fossil fuels to generate electricity or to generate other forms of energy, but the end product, or at the end of all of this, we find that we are putting into the environment very harmful substances, and we are trying to mitigate all of this. So the fundamental goal of energy management is to ensure that we produce goods and also provide services with the least cost and the least environmental effects. So this is very crucial, something we need to keep at the back of our mind as we proceed in this discussion. So the big question now we want to ask ourselves is, why do we actually need to manage energy? I've already mentioned this, that if you look at the residential sector, the commercial sector, and industrial sector, all of these sectors are actually responsible for how we utilize our energy resources. And according to the International Organization for Standardization, it has been asserted that the world energy consumption will continue to rise, and it's going to rise on a continuous basis over the next 40 years. And this increment is even projected to increase further by 30% by 2040. And because of this, we cannot just fold our hands and just sit back and do nothing. Like I mentioned earlier on, our use of energy also impacts on the environment. And because we want to mitigate the adverse effects of energy use on the environment, so we need to do something to address all of that. All right, so we need to do something, like I mentioned, to reduce the rising energy consumption and also reduce our emissions as a result of utilizing fossil fuels to generate electricity and other forms of energy. So, but what exactly do we need to do? We will come to see that the energy management system plays a very critical role in helping us achieve all of this process. We need to take action now to help us better manage our energy consumption, as this not only helps the planet, but it also saves the earth. If you remember, when I started, I talked about why we need to manage our energy consumption. Because we want to reduce cost, and also we want to reduce the negative or adverse impact of our energy use on the environment. So we need to take action, and the action has to be now. We don't have to defer this. Everybody must join hands for us to ensure that we are protecting the climate, we are protecting the environment, and we are ensuring that the earth remains a sustainable place for all of us to live in. It makes a lot of sense, like I mentioned, for us to reduce our energy consumption. I've already said it, that if we reduce our energy consumption, we're also trying to reduce the costs. So for many organizations, the energy cost takes a very large percentage of the budget. So if we try to find means to reduce energy consumption, by extension, we'll be reducing the cost for those organizations. And again, we want to also reduce the greenhouse gas emissions as a result of our energy use. And for some organizations, reducing energy consumption or implementing energy management system standards is a thing of pride for them. So what some organizations want to use this to achieve, they also want to be able to use this to improve their organization's image, or what we call the company's image. And also, you agree with me that the oil prices over time hasn't really been very stable. And because of the volatile nature of oil prices, if we don't do something about this, we'll continue to be exposed to the volatile oil prices out there in the global market. So it's very important and very critical for us to take energy management very seriously. Okay, so I said all of that to just provide some background to what we want to discuss, which is the ISO 50001 energy management systems. That's the energy management system standards. Familiar with this term? We've been hearing of energy management. Now we are talking about energy management system. So we want to see how we can utilize this simple tool, or what we call a framework, to help us reduce our energy consumption, and also to help us to improve energy performance for our industries, for our companies, and for organizations. So that's basically what we want to look at. So an energy management system, it's not something that we can't actually comprehend. It's just simply a set of practices that helps us to create a culture of continual improvement in energy performance. So the key word here is we want to entrench a culture of continual improvement that will help us to improve our energy performance. And for many organizations are concerned about trying to improve their energy performance. And one way organizations can actually achieve this is by adopting the principles embedded in the ISO 50001 energy management system standards. So organizations with EnMS will normally achieve energy and cost savings through a set of quantitative tools that helps them to track energy use. And by tracking energy use, they can actually make informed decisions. And when all of this is put in place, the organization will actually be better off for it. So that's basically what the energy management system is. It's just a set of practices. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to change the mindset, to change the culture, to change the behavior of people. We are trying to improve processes, and we are trying to adopt technology to ensure that we can actually improve our energy performance. That's simply what the energy management system is all about. So as we go further, you see how this management system, in terms of the structure, in terms of the framework, and then we'll also be looking at things like what we call the high-level structure of the management system standard. Okay, so ISO 50001 energy management system is just a document. It's a standard, and usually the standard is called ISO 50001 2018. So when you see these numbers besides any standard, the last set of numbers actually represent the year when the standard document was last revised. So this standard was published in 2018. That's why we are referring to it as the ISO 50001 2018 standard. So before the 2018 version of this standard, we've had several other versions before this. We had the 2014 version, and we also had the 2011 version. So basically what it does, it provides organizations with a recognized framework, just like I mentioned earlier on, for integrating energy performance into management practices, and to also help these organizations to develop action plans to ensure that there's continual improvement of energy performance over a sustained period of time. So the whole goal is that we want to improve our energy performance, and we want to also have what we call continual improvement. So the idea is not for us to put in place the management system standard and then do nothing about it afterwards. So on a continuous basis, we need to keep implementing the management system, keeping track of our energy consumption, and ensuring that there is continual improvement of the system. So I've mentioned that the ISO 50001 standard is a framework, and you can also refer to it as a strategic tool that helps organizations put in place an energy management system to ensure that they're actually utilizing energy more efficiently and effectively. So that's just what the management system standard is all about. Before implementing an energy management system, there are certain things we need to do. So in the management system standard, there are a set of requirements that will enable organizations to, first of all, develop what we call a policy. So the goal is we want to improve energy performance. We want to be able to utilize energy more efficiently. So, but for us to be able to achieve that, we first need to put in place what we call an energy policy. So that is the starting point for implementing energy management systems. Even though for some organizations, the first point of call will be to develop what we call a gap analysis. But in the management system standard, it does not make that procedure compulsory. But usually some organizations will normally want to develop or put in place what we call a gap analysis. So the gap analysis is like an initial audit that helps to audit your organization to see how it is faring in terms of energy performance and to see those areas where performance can actually be improved. So we will have to develop the policy, and then part of the process will involve fixing targets for energy consumption, and also setting out clear objectives to ensure that those objectives actually meet the policy that has been put in place. So in the process of implementing these standards, there's a need for us to also gather data to help us better understand how energy is being utilized within the organization. With this knowledge, we can actually make informed decisions concerning our energy use. So as part of the implementation, we also need to measure the results obtained, and then we will also review the effectiveness of the policy. And where we find that the policy is lacking in some aspect, there's always room for us to revise the energy policy. So these are some of the things you need to consider when implementing an energy management system. And like I mentioned previously, there's also need for continual improvement of the energy management, because without continual improvement of the management system, it's as good as nothing. So later on, you'll come to see how critical and how important this continual improvement process actually is. Okay, so like every other ISO management system standards, for those of us who have been working with ISO standards, there are quite a number of management system standards. If you want to look at standards development itself, in terms of the number of standards available for public use, ISO over time has developed over 250 standards, but not all standards are management system standards. The management system standards are your quality management systems, your business continuity management system, your risk management systems, your ISO 3001 energy management systems, your food management systems, occupational health and safety management systems, and there are quite a number of these standards. All of these management system standards are meant to achieve a specific purpose. It's important for us to know that for ISO 5001, it has been designed in such a way that it can be implemented by any organization, whether you're a public organization or a private organization, or the activity that you actually carry out, or the geographical location, whether you're in the US, in Canada, in Nigeria, or in China, it doesn't matter. Any organization can actually implement these standards. And it's also important to note that ISO will not fix targets on how you need to improve your energy performance. So in the standard, it does not specify targets or fixed targets, meaning it does not tell you by what percent, in terms of the percentage numbers, that you need to cut down on your energy consumption. You as an organization need to look inwards and determine what is best for the organization. And then you can decide to fix a target of 5% this year, and on an annual basis, you continue to increase that target, or decide to maintain that target. But the standard will not specify all of this. So all of that is usually left to the organization to decide, or in some cases for regulatory authorities to decide that. So like I said, the ISO 5001 management system standard, I already mentioned this, that it's a recognized framework for developing an effective energy management system. Unlike other management systems, which I mentioned earlier on, it follows what we call the plan, do, check, and act process for continual improvement. Usually the PDCA cycle, in some places you hear people refer to it as the Deming cycle. Deming cycle was actually put together by Deming. That's why it's referred to as the Deming cycle. So on the basis of the ISO 5001 standard, it follows this process-based approach, which is what we call the plan, do, check, and act. Same thing with other management system standards, whether it's for food safety management systems or for quality management systems or for environmental management systems. They all follow these basic principles.